football.
ABC Grandstands Footy Finals.
NRL.
G'day and welcome to Grandstand's online presentation finals flashback. I'm Lee Pentony. In the build-up to Sunday's NRL Grand Final, we're going to take a look back at some of the Rugby League season deciders from yesteryear. And to kick off proceedings, we're going to focus on 1975's clash between the Eastern Suburbs Roosters and St George Dragons. The Jack Gibson coached Roosters had won the minor premiership after dropping just 2 matches during the regular season, but they did suffer an 8-5 defeat to the Dragons in the semi-finals. The Roosters rebounded to beat Manly 28-13 in the preliminary final to set up a return bout with the Dragons, who were looking for their first premiership since 1966, the year in which they won an 11th straight title. Now, to give you a snapshot of how grand final broadcasts were conducted back in the 1970s, we've decided not to edit out the calls of the Caulfield Guineas or the crosses to Sydney Rugby Union finals. Coverage was a little bit more laid back in those days, but your hosts for the grand final between the Roosters and Dragons at the SCG with Keith Barnes and Alan Marks.
Now play has just begun at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Eastern Suburbs won the toss. St George kicked off, running from left to right with defending the northern end of the Sydney Cricket Ground. Eastern Suburbs put the ball right back to Langlands on his own quarter line. He takes it, dummies a pass to Mills, but he's well caught there by Mullins, who moved down quickly. And Langlands caught in possession on his own quarter line. Plays it to Mills, who beats... No, he doesn't beat Mullins up the blind side. Mullins went right around the ankles to effect the second tackle. Edge gets it out to Smith, and on it's gone to Goodwin amongst the forwards. Goodwin was tackled though by Mays and held to the ground by Beaton. Up to his feet, Edge sends it on the blind side to Beath, and a penalty has gone. It's against Easts. The player penalised was Grant Hedger, standing offside. Penalty awarded midway between the St George quarter line and halfway, and Langlands to kick for the far eastern touchline, and it's a terrible kick. It comes off the side of his boot, rolled about 5 metres out towards the touchline, was eventually picked up there by Reinberger, and he's in possession the first time in this grand final for Easts. Playing it back now, and the pass goes to Peard, and a long one to Beaton. Out it's gone to Mays again. Mays has Stevens outside, gives it to Stevens. Stevens to Schubert. Schubert down to halfway. Schubert is caught though. A good low tackle by Roy Ferguson right on halfway. Mullins is dumbing half for Easts, gets it out to Stevens. Then it's gone on to Mackay. Mackay trying to make ground down the middle of the pack, and was held up in the tackle. Plays it now. It's gone to Mays again. A long one to Reinberger. Outside is Brass, who's playing outside him. And a lovely diving tackle, though, by Robert Stone. Grounds the Eastern Suburbs centre on halfway. Picked up by Pickett on the wing, who goes himself. Caught, though, by Edger and Fitzgerald. And held down 5 metres inside the St George half with 1 tackle to go. Back to Walters, then to Peard. Peard dummies a pass, gets it away to Hedger on to Mays. Mays gets it to Schubert. Schubert down the blind side, runs straight into Lindsay Drake, and Drake tackles him only 10 metres out from the St George quarter line. And Eastern Suburbs varying play in the opening 3 or 4 minutes.
Yes, and we saw Johnny Peard instrumental in that initial break there, where he switched the play with Mackay going up the blind side. Bad mistake by Langlands when he practically missed the ball looking for the line on that occasion. And it'll be very interesting to see who gets possession from this first scrum.
It's a St George ball, dived on by Billy Smith, but he was held to the ground by Mays, and Mays is roughing him up a bit, but it goes out to Drake, who tries to get past Beaton. Beaton takes him around the shoulders and drives him into the ground with the help of Grant Hedger, the replacement prop forward. Played back to Edge now, gives it to Smith. Edge dummies around, then takes the pass and is knocked over in a solid tackle by Johnny Peard. Up to his feet quickly, back to Smith. Smith runs straight into Ron Coote. 2 good mates there, but no quarter given as Coote throws him to the ground, just out from his own quarter line. A quick pass goes back, and Langlands is well caught by Peard. Beautiful play by Johnny Peard, as Langlands didn't get time to get his kick in. Well, there's an advantage of having Peard playing up close. The ball's gone to Smith, and St George are being bustled in attack, as St George did to Eastern Suburbs 2 weeks ago. A scrum to go down for the 6th tackle, right in front of the St George posts.
Very quick defence by Eastern Suburbs then. They were able to get up very quickly there and nullify Langlands and also Billy Smith.
Ball put in the scrum, and East's ball, and it's worked to the open side by Mays out to Stevens. Stevens is caught though by Bailey and held down to the ground. The ball on the quarter line, played, given to Beatson, comes back the other way. Beatson gets a pass away. Coote turns it back inside but doesn't let it go, and he was thrown to the ground. A good strong tackle by hooker Stephen Edge on the St George quarter line. Plays it back to Mays, who goes himself, tries to get around Beat, but Beat goes around the ankles and drags him to the ground too, and a good tackle. Back to Walters now, out to Beatson. Walters dummies around, it goes the other way to Schubert. Schubert is almost through, but a last-ditch tackle there by Billy Smith. Tackled him just out from St George's line. Hedger gets a long pass now, and he runs it wide of the ruck, but was well tackled on the far side of the ground by lock forward Lindsay Drake. He plays it now, Reinberger into Brass, who puts this one high in the air. There's pressure on Langlands. The kick is too strong by John Brass and out over the dead ball line on the full, and play will come back to the St George quarter line for the restart of play with no score after 5 minutes of this 1975 grand final.
Yes, obviously both teams are going to try and employ the similar types of tactics. Eastern Suburbs looking to keep play in the St George territory. Graham Langlands instructing his team to play percentage football, eliminate mistakes when they've got the ball and concentrate on defence, particularly in this opening 40 minutes.
The tap kick was taken by St George and Edge ran straight into the opposing forwards. Now the ball has gone to Goodwin, who doubles around, throws the pass back to Fitzgerald, had nowhere to go. Fitzgerald was tackled by Mays, who's done more tackling for East than anybody yet. The ball played, it's given to Beat now. Beat can't get away from Beatson, and Beatson really gave him some measure. Got him around the waist and slung him to the ground. Now to Tartner, reversing it out to Goodwin, who nearly dropped it. He was belted over in a strong, firm shoulder tackle, though, by Hedger. The ball played, given to Smith on the blind side. Smith is almost through, but had no support. 12 metres short of halfway. He was tackled there by Hedger. Ball played, back it's gone again. Goodwin, a short kick over the top. Goodwin chasing it back. Goodwin might get the bounce. He doesn't. Crashes into Schubert. Both players are on the ground injured. They're not going to move. It was a head clash. Full credit, though, to Teddy Goodwin. He saw Schubert coming in at him, but he was intent on getting the ball. So too was Schubert. Their heads clashed and both players are motionless on the ground, midway between the Eastern Suburbs quarter line and halfway. And that's an example of Teddy Goodwin trying to open up play by doing the unorthodox.
Yes, it certainly was, and it nearly came off too. He only had to be a yard further up, and there was a definite try on, and full marks to both players. All they had their eyes on was the ball, and they hit very heavily. And both the trainers from the respective clubs are working overtime, trying to get the both of them on their feet. It's been a sensational opening. Very clever kick over the top by Goodwin. It'll be unfortunate for St George if he is injured, because he certainly gives a lot of spark to this St George attack. He's on his feet now, and so too is Ian Schubert. But the both players look pretty groggy because they hit very, very hard.
Yes, Teddy Goodwin, if he's giving his trainer some good deal of concern, and I noticed Schubert, when he got to his feet, he staggered around, didn't know where he was. And at the moment, Johnny Peard, the lock forward, has dropped back to a fullback position for Easts with Schubert. I can't find him, but he must be there somewhere. In fact, he was back down into the second row of the scrum. So the ball is won anyway from the scrum by St George, and Beath is tackled just out from the Eastern Suburbs quarter line. Edge from dummy half, gives it to Smith, and then it's gone on to Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald taken, though. Strong tackle by Ian Mackay, assisted there by Beatson. He'll play it out from the East's quarter line. Smith has it. Dummy to pass to Bailey. Got it to Tartner. Up the middle he went, but he was well held by Hedger, who went low. Back to Edge. Smith on the blind side. A short kick this time. Being chased through by Langlands. The ball high in the air. Schubert waits. It bounces in field. Langlands and Peard is there. Johnny Peard dives on the ball for East. Only a few metres out from the Eastern Suburbs goal line. East have the ball. It's played back now, and Pickett from the wing runs it into the middle of the field. He was well tackled by Tartner, though, and held down 12 metres out. Stevens, dummy half, gets it away to Brass, who kicks, and the kick is smothered down by Fitzgerald. Schubert drives it back into his zone in goal area. Ronnie Coote picked it up, ran it out over the dead ball line, and play will start now from underneath the Eastern Suburbs goal posts.
Good play by Johnny Brass there. He spotted Graham Langlands out of position, looked to utilise the opportunity by driving the ball downfield. Ian Schubert looks as if he's recovered, but Teddy Goodwin looks very sick and sorry out there at the moment.
Now the restart underneath the East's posts, taken by Brass. Smith is back as a second fullback for St George and takes it 10 metres inside his own half. Now he runs it upfield, throws a long pass out to Langlands. Langlands is in trouble by Pickett, but got a beautiful pass away to Chapman on the far wing. and Chapman crossed halfway, was tackled 10 metres in from touch on the far side of the ground. He'll play it back now. Stone gets a pass to Smith, doubles around, takes the reverse pass. A good tackle by Coote though, with Easts moving up very quickly in defence by all means. Now Edged drives it hard, putting the shoulder down as he ran into Johnny Mays, but Mays threw him to the ground on halfway. It's been a story of defence so far. Tartner now, he tries to take it up the middle. There are 3 Eastern Suburbs forwards waiting for him to give him the respective treatment, and he got it. Now it's played, given out to Smith, who dummied away on the blind side. Smith well tackled though. The Easts players are missing very few tackles in the opening 10 minutes. At dummy half, it's picked up by Beath, who goes himself 12 metres out from the Easts quarter line. It was the 6th tackle for St George, and a scrum will go down in that position on the far side of the ground with still no score after 8 minutes of the first half.
Typical grand final play at the moment, with both teams concentrating on defence, taking very, very little risks with the ball, just sounding each other out. Some good fiery clashes in the forwards and bruising defence by both teams. Scrum penalty from referee Laurie Villiers.
So there it is, a penalty going to St George. We'll wait and give you the result later on, but now we're ready for the Rosehill Guineas. Geoff Mahoney at Rosehill.
Here at Rosehill, the white flag has been raised. No sign of the field jumping away, although I can see that most of them are in the starting gates. At the 2,000 metre starting point, the white flag has been held aloft, but there's one out. I think I can see it on the monitor. It looks like Cheney Walk. This monitor here is definitely of some assistance. Maybe if you cross to me when they jump, it might give us an idea how this attempted goal is going at the racing. Racing in the Guineas, and they're about to appear in view, and as they come into view, the leader is Crimson Cloud. Rafiq is taken up on the inside of it, and Battle Sign joins in to make a line of 3. They're followed closely again by Rosie Ayre, speeding around them looking for the front, and they're followed by Aristocratic. Waterloo is getting back in the field, and they're followed after a gap in the event by Cheney Walk. Fairly well back is Prince Lane, and they're followed by Twilight Thief and Major Grant, followed by Gold Pulse. And Quasind has dropped out to be in last placing. So they race around the first bend with about 1,500 to go, and Rosie Ayre has taken over the running. Led the way from Battle Sign going into second placing, Crimson Cloud third. They're followed then by Rafiq on the inside of Aristocratic and Major Grant. Then at the head of the others, holding its place nicely, is Roy Lance, just in advance of Cheney Walk on the inside of Waterloo, followed by Twilight Thief, Prince Lane. Gold Pulse has dropped out next to last, and Quasind in the run down the back with 1,000 to go, and Rosie Ayre is cruising along in front. A length and a half clear over Battle Sign. About 3 more to Crimson Cloud holding third, then Aristocratic, Rafiq. After 2 lengths came Major Grant, then Cheney Walk, and Waterloo going up 3 wide. Roy Lance and Prince Lane together ahead of Gold Pulse, and then dropping out to last is Quasind. They race along with about 700 metres to go, and Rosie Ayre held together in front, led the way to Battle Sign. Crimson Cloud moving to third. Aristocratic is about a head away fourth, 2.5 behind them. Rafiq is coming into it. Then Cheney Walk, followed by Prince Lane. Waterloo, followed by Gold Pulse. Quasind is well back to Twilight Thief, Major Grant, and Roy Lance is last. Rosie Ayre shot away from them, swinging into the straight, leading about 2 lengths on Battle Sign, who's coming home, however, well under the whip. In behind them, Crimson Cloud. Battle Sign is up on terms with Rosie Ayre at the 200 metres, and it's Battle Sign hitting a narrow lead. Rosie Ayre's fighting back under the whip. Rosie Ayre coming again on the inside of Battle Sign. Here's Rafiq down the middle of the track. It's Battle Sign just in front of Rosie Ayre near the line. They go to the post, Battle Sign or Rosie Ayre, Rafiq third. Then Gold Pulse followed by Crimson Cloud, well back Cheney Walk followed by Twilight Thief. Prince Lane, Quasind, well back Waterloo followed by Major Grant. Roy Lance next to last, and Aristocratic at be the last home. Judge calls on the photo in a terrific Rosehill Guineas. Battle Sign and Rosie Ayre have fought out a terrific finish in the Rosehill Guineas. Very little to pick from Battle Sign and Rosie Ayre.
We'll bring you the result of the photo from the studio. Now it's back to the cricket ground.
With a high kick put up inside the St George, the Eastern Suburbs goal line. It was well taken by Schubert, but he was set upon by the St George defence. They've contained Easts behind their own goal line now, and that means that Easts once again will have to start play from underneath their own posts.
Great kick by Billy Smith there, and equally well taken by Ian Schubert. Schubert looks as if he's fully recovered, and Teddy Goodwin looks a lot more confident now out there too for St George.
The restart of play went over halfway. Smith took the ball but was well tackled by his opposite half, Johnny Mays. Plays it back to Chapman from dummy half. He goes himself, made 5 metres, up on the far side of the ground, about midway between the quarter line and halfway East's territory. Beath tries to do the same, playing it very wisely, St George, not throwing the ball about to if there's any risk of losing it. Now it goes to Tartner. He tried to push his way through the defence but was held up with Hedger going low and Mackay high. Fitzgerald is dummy half, unloads it to Smith on the blind side. It's gone again to Stone. Stone is tackled there by Walters on the far side, and he's held down with tackles running out. One tackle to go. Billy Smith gets the pass away. Tartner tries the up and under. It goes straight up in the air. Tartner stays his ground and might get the ball back, and he does in fact. Tartner regains it. He didn't even move from the spot where he kicked it, so it went straight up in the air and down to him again. St George regained it, was the sixth tackle, and the scrum going down on the Eastern Suburbs quarter line, 12 metres in from the Eastern touchline, and still no score after 12 and a half minutes of this first half of play.
And the result of the photo, 2-1 and 3. First, Battlezine. Second, Rosehill. Third, Rafiq.
Now East have the ball from the scrum, and it's gone out to Reinberger, who's running well with it in the centres for East. 11 metres out from his own quarter line. He was tackled by Mills. Plays it to Mullins, out to Stevens, then to Peard. Peard throws a good pass to Beecham, reversing it to Coote. Coote gets inside the first tackle, but Fitzgerald and Ferguson are there to drag him to the ground just short of the quarter line. He plays it now. Peard gets it away to Beecham, dumming it back. Then he gets it away to Mackay. Mackay was well tackled, though, by Beath, and Stone moving into assist. 10 metres out from the quarter line. May sends it out to Brass. A long one to Reinberger, out to Schubert. Schubert running wide. A beautiful tackle by Tartner. Knocks him over, though. About 15 metres short of halfway, far side of the ground. Pickett sends it in to Walters, who nearly dropped it, then gave it to Hedger. Hedger came upfield. He was caught by Drake on the fifth tackle and thrown to the ground. Still short of halfway for Easts. The penalty goes, though, before Peard could get his kick in. It was against halfback Billy Smith, who was standing up too close in defence. The penalty goes to Eastern Suburbs, 15 metres short of halfway, and no doubt Johnny Brass will come up and kick for touch on the far side of the ground.
Position at the moment, the scrum's level with 2 each, St George and East, and St George favoured by a 3-1 penalty count. Obviously this has given them a fair amount of possession, and territorially they've had the better of the play, but now we've seen Eastern Suburbs move into the attack. Haven't seen too much of Arthur Beetson in these opening 10-15 minutes or so. He's got his right leg very heavily strapped. He's taking the pass in the play, but he's not hitting the line at the moment.
And now they work a move, and it very nearly paid off with Mullins coming running onto it from a long way back. 2 forwards standing motionless. One of them was Beetson, but the move didn't quite work. Now it's gone out to Beetson, who pushes off a player, gets it back to Mays. Mays is almost through. Ferguson is there, though, to drag him down, and the ever-presence of Peter Fitzgerald also to tackle him. They play it to Stevens, who goes himself, gives it to Beetson on the quarter line. Beetson unloads the ball, and it's gone out to Hedger, who's caught by Stone on the far side of the ground on St George's quarter line. East's looking desperately for this first break. It's picked up by Peard, given to Stevens. Out it's gone to Coote. Well picked up. Coote is tackled, though. Drake goes high and Bailey goes low, and between them they throw him to the ground on the fifth tackle. Now it's Mays, a long one to Brass to Peard, a short kick over the top by Peard. Drake and Langlands underneath it. Langlands takes it well, is tackled by Mullins, forced towards the touchline, but he went to ground with the ball, and he'll have to play it with winger Paul Mills dummy half. He goes himself after getting the ball, ran across field, made 2 or 3 metres, still inside his own quarter, and he was tackled by John Peard. The ball played to edge, given out now to Tartner. Tartner runs up the middle, gets it away to Beath. Beath, who trailed him through, made another 3 or 4 metres, crossed the quarter line, but was tackled by Coote. And Coote wins the ball in the play the ball. A good bit of raking by the East's player. It's gone out now to Peard, who reverses play, goes across the blind side. Peard is caught though by Ferguson, who tries to rake the ball off him, and he's tackled just out from the St George quarter line. Back to Coote now, a pass that goes to Walters to Hedger, to Mackay. Mackay went through 2 or 3 tackles and crossed the quarter line before Lindsay Drake was there to hold him up. East's looking to get further inside the St George half. Walters to Mays, out to Stevens, it's gone, then to Brass in the centres. Brass had Reinberger running up outside him, but couldn't get the pass away with Bailey and Stone there to defend for St George. 2 tackles to go. Stevens out, it's gone to Hedger. Another lovely tackle by Stone, who throws himself into these tackles and grounded his opposing forward on the far side. Now Mays takes it, gives the ball back to Pickett, who throws a long pass, intercepted by Peard, then it's gone to Mackay and then out towards Reinberger. Reinberger had Coote outside, but a very strong tackle by Barry Beath threw him to the ground. Back to Schubert, 1 tackle to go. Stevens tries a kick over the top, it's a high one. Langlands waits under his own posts, takes it well, tries to get away from the defence. Stevens and Mays are there to tackle him, and Langlands will have to play it in front of his own goal posts. The dummy half goes himself, and winger Chapman, who had dropped back to give his fullback support, made about 10 metres out from his own goal line. Plays it
weight,
back.
Rosehill.
And it's gone now to Ferguson, who's in from the centres doing the forwards work. He got almost up to his own quarter line before being tackled. Hooker Edge tries to do the same, but he was tackled by his opposite number, Elwyn Walters, almost on the quarter line. Smith, dummy half, goes himself, throws a pass to Tartner. Tartner caught though by Mackay and Stevens and is held up. East's containing St George near their own line. Smith has it. Smith kicks downfield. Schubert has to run across field for it. It's gone over to the far wing to Pickett. Pickett takes it, has Schubert in support. Upfield he comes, and he's well tackled though by hooker Stephen Edge, who'd followed down the kick very nicely. And Easts are in possession just over halfway in their own half. Still no score. We've had about 18 minutes of play in this match, and both sides have played it very tightly. St George have had one shot for goal, and it was missed, as East's second rower, Ron Coote, came upfield, 12 metres inside the St George half. Plays it back to Beetson, who goes himself from dummy half. Beetson almost through, was tripped to the ground by Bailey, who took him right around the ankles. He'll play it back. It's gone to Peard. Throws a long pass the far side to Brass. Brass trying to burst through the defence. Was caught though by Edge and another of the St George players. It was set to Roy Ferguson. One tackle to go. Peard throws a pass back inside to Pickett, who tried to accelerate off the mark. He was tackled though by Drake, and that's the sixth tackle for Easts. A scrum will go down about 20 metres out from the St George goal line on the Paddington side of the ground.
And the more I look at this game, even after 20 minutes, the more I'm convinced that Arthur Beetson is the player that holds the key to this Eastern Suburbs victory here today. He's got to hit the line. When he does take the ball, take it on the burst and hit the line, he's got the St George defence under a lot of pressure.
Now Easts have won the scrum, and Schubert is taking it across field. He crosses the quarter line. Goodwin is there to throw him down though, helped by Langlands. Only 20 metres out from the St George line. Baggett's gone now to Mullins, who saw a gap, very nearly got through it, but it took Langlands to drag him down with the help of Bailey, the 5'8". Stevens now runs it wide, turns it back. Peard got a pass away to Walters. Walters goes up the middle and is tackled 8 metres out in front of the St George goalposts. This could be the first points coming up. Mays gets a long pass. It's Stevens running with it. Stevens a long pass to Brass, beautifully handled to Reinberger. Reinberger got it out to Pickett, who dropped it. The line almost open on the far side. A very quick piece of passing, though, by Brass to Reinberger. Reinberger didn't get his pass away properly, but it's gone back to Brass and then to Stevens. East still on the attack. Beetson has it. A long one, cuts out 2 players. Coote is caught, though. Goodwin and Mills are in there, trying to drive him backwards, and he's tackled. One tackle to go, Beetson. Then it's gone to Peard, who'll kick. No, he doesn't. On to Brass. It's gone out to Hedger. A long one to Brass. Brass kicks infield, though. It's a high kick, a high up and under. No one's at home. Langlands lets it go. Someone else called for it. It bounced on the ground. It's another East's ball. It's gone to Walters, and the ball knocked forward. The tackle count starts again. Schubert crosses the quarter line, and Schubert is jumped on by the St George defence, with Tartner over the top and Goodwin driving him down. Now to Beetson. Beetson rampaging now. Gets it back to Coote, who throws a loose pass. Back there looking for it was another St George player, and Mullins is tackled in possession, with East looking very dangerous close to the St George goal line. Back to Mays, it's gone. The East's players throwing the ball everywhere, looking for these gaps, and the St George defence, though strained, is holding at the moment. A pass throw and back to Peard, who reverses it back to Beetson. Beetson stands up, gives it back to Peard. Peard comes in field again and still couldn't get anywhere as he was held down by Ferguson. Still no score, and we've had 21 minutes of the first half, a very tight match. Coote is almost through. One tackle though. Coote is down just in front of the St George goalposts. It's passed back to Beetson. Beetson turning it back to Peard. Peard reverses it to Mays. Mays almost through a gap, caught by Fitzgerald, back to Peard, and Peard loses the ball in front of his own goalposts. Picked up by Langlands in front of the St George goalposts, I should say, and Langlands now is in possession for St George, only about 8 metres out from his own goal line. Plays it back to Smith, and Smith goes himself from dummy half, and St George no doubt will keep possession as long as they can here.
Just a break for dividends on the Rosehill Guineas, 2, 1 and 3. Battle Sign first, paid $2.20 and 60 cents. Second, Rosy Air, 35 cents. And third, Rafik, 55 cents. No Quinella. The double on races 5 and 6, $46.40.
Race 6, Moonee Valley, the numbers 3, 12 and 5. Prince Amira, $1.60 and 60. Coomerang, $1.05. Upstairs, 90 cents. In progress score from Melbourne, Richmond 4, 6, 30. Trail, North Melbourne 3, 6, 34.
First leg of the double at Newcastle, 2, 9 and 3. Yo Tambian first, 90 cents and 45. Second, Falter, $1.35. Third, Prince Morgan, 55 cents. Back to the league.
Where a scrum is just going down, almost on halfway in St George's territory. A series of kicks there that very nearly gave an advantage to St George, but the knock-on will see a scrum go down.
Both teams standing very flat in defence here, and this as the scrum goes down. I'm a little bit surprised. I thought East would be a little bit deeper in attack.
And very good refereeing by Laurie Bruyers. Johnny Mays knocked the ball on as it came out of the scrum. Bruyers was on the opposite side of the scrum to Mays, and how he saw it I don't know, but I had my field glasses on it, and a definite knock on and very good refereeing. Now the ball comes out the St George side. Smith couldn't pick it up cleanly. He knocked it back to Langlands. Smith under great pressure from Johnny Mays, who followed him around the scrum very quickly.
Langlands lost the ball in the tackle too, so consequently we see another scrum go down. But what tremendous pressure Eastern Suburbs applied there for a period of about 10 minutes, and great defence by St George to hold them out.
Now an East's ball, and May stands in the tackle and turns it back inside to lock forward Peard, who broke very quickly, and Peard is caught midway between the quarter line and halfway, St George's territory. Mays gives it back to Beats, and then it's gone to Stevens, who got off the mark quickly. Stevens going upfield, made about 10 metres, and was tackled on the ground by Beath. It's played now out, it's gone to Peard. Peard running wide of the ruck on the far side, had support. Pickett not up there in time though, and had to ride the ball to the ground, 10 metres out from the St George goal lines. East still putting the pressure on St George. Mays dummied it back and he almost got through. He crossed the quarter line, stood up, got the ball back to Peard, and Peard was tackled only 20 metres out from the St George goal line. Back to Mays, on to Stevens. A long pass that's gone to Beatson now. Beatson is on the run. He got another pass back to Stevens. Throws a pass over many players' heads. It's gone out to Brass. Here's a chance for East. It's gone to Reinberger, who gives it to Mullins. Mullins is in trouble though. There are 4 St George defenders there, and they hold him to the ground with 1 tackle to go. Ball played. Reinberger, out it's gone. Coote to Stevens, out to Mays, who dropped it. Mays lost the ball. It was dived on by a St George player, but there was a knock on to both sides. Diving on it was Henry Tartner, but it had been knocked on earlier by second rower Fitzgerald, and a scrum for the knock on to both sides goes down 15 metres out in front of the St George posts.
St George East throwing everything into the attack now. They've got Kevin Stevens and Johnny Peard, an extra 5'8" either side of the ruck, and it could be dangerous for St George, of course, if Eastern Suburbs do win possession, because they're throwing a lot of pressure on the St George defence, and they've certainly got them stretched at this stage.
And it's a St George ball as Smith takes it the blind side, and he came upfield. Well, it wasn't the blind side, but the 5'8" was there, and nevertheless he was tackled by Peard. Now he plays it. Bailey goes himself from dummy half. He crosses the quarter line. Knocked over in a good tackle, though, by second rower Ron Coote, with Stevens in there helping. He gets to his feet. It's played back now. Stone gives it to Smith. Smith goes the other way. He's caught, though, gets out of tackles. Smith up over the quarter line once again before Stevens claims him in a good tackle. Drake dummy half fires the ball away to Beath, who goes himself. Beath well caught, though, by front rower Mackay, and was held to the ground about 30 metres out from the St George posts. It's gone now to Tartner. Tartner searching for gaps in the East's defence, but they close very quickly, and he couldn't make any impression or any headway, and he's held up still midway between the quarter line and halfway. 1 tackle to go. The ball is passed back to Smith, who kicks. A short one over the top. He follows it through. Pickett is in from the wing. Pickett looking for the ball. He takes it. Has Schubert in support. Gets away though from Smith's tackle. He's too fast for Fitzgerald. Too fast for Stone. Too fast for Goodwin, and now he's caught up. He's given the ball to Mays, and Mays is running for the posts, and Mays will score for East under the posts. Brought about by a good run by winger Pickett. First points of the match after 25 minutes of play. Halfback Johnny Mays scampering away to score under the posts in a run of about 30 metres, and it's East's leading St George by 3 points to 0, and the kick to come.
Well, after the St George defence had been subjected to tremendous pressure there for some 15 minutes or so, we saw a try come from a dangerous-looking kick over the top from Billy Smith. Pickett was favoured by the bounce. There didn't seem to be any danger there whatsoever. He evaded Billy Smith's tackle. Then we saw him step around a couple of other St George players, and all of a sudden he was through into the St George danger area. He came to fullback Graham Langlands. On the outside loomed the halfback Johnny Mays, and from a ridiculously easy-looking situation, we see Eastern Suburbs put the first points on the board, and great play by Pickett, great combination by Johnny Mays.
John Brass, who was deposed as kicker 2 weeks ago by John Peard because of injury, will not take the goal kicking. Johnny Peard has the duties again, and he looks all set to make this the extra points for East. He moves in now, right in front, puts it through, and East leads St George by 5 points to 0. After 27 minutes of play in the first half. It's taken a long time for those first points to come up, but they came up in quite remarkable fashion for Eastern Suburbs. So a try scored by Mays, converted by John Peard, and it's 5-0.
And now St George, of course, they have to get back into this game. Not that they're out of it by any means, because I just feel that this breeze is worth about 5 points anyhow. But they'll be looking to contain Eastern Suburbs to no further scores in this particular half. But the way Eastern Suburbs are starting to apply the pressure, Johnny Peard is playing a roving type of game out there in the lock forward position. He's taking the play as much as possible, looking to turn on and use a lot of runaround tactics with Kevin Stevens.
East still in possession. The ball now has gone to Peard, who gets it away to Beatson. Up the middle goes Beatson, runs into Drake, stands up, gets the pass back, and it's gone again to Peard. Out to Schubert. They're moving the ball very quickly. Out to Reinberger to Brass. Brass threw a quick pass, but held onto it as he tried to elude the centre, Roy Ferguson. Didn't let the ball go, and he was tackled. Now Mullins gets it away to Peard. Back to Beatson. Dummy to Peard. Beatson still in possession. Stands it up. Gives it to Schubert. Schubert drops the ball. It's on the ground and dived on by Lindsay Drake for St George, with East's moving the ball very rapidly indeed. Drake goes himself on the far side of the ground. He's stepping through tackles, and Drake almost through. And Drake got almost out of the quarter line, but was tripped at the last moment and held to the ground by Walters. Gets to his feet slowly, plays it back to Beat, to Smith, to Bailey. Outside him was Goodwin, but the defence moved up too quickly and Bailey had to keep it himself. Goodwin moves into dummy half. Bailey plays it, not looking too well, but he gets it out to Smith. Smith unloads it back to Tartner, on to Fitzgerald. There's no support there. Fitzgerald is through though. Fitzgerald comes down to the quarter line again for Eastern Suburbs and is tackled by the East's defence. 5-0 the score. Fitzgerald to his feet, plays it to Edge, who goes himself from dummy half. Well tackled though by Mays. John Mays gets through an incredible amount of tackling for a halfback. He seems to do the front line defence. Now it's still St George's ball though. It's given to Tartner, and Tartner is brought down in front of the St George goal posts. An ideal opportunity for a kick. Will they do it? There's Smith. Yes, there's the kick. It's in the air. Not going very far though. Coote underneath it. Tartner knocks it back. Still a St George ball. Langlands has it now. Langlands difficulty picking it up, and he's had it kicked away by Mullins. Mullins picks it up, and he's almost down and free. Gets it away to Pickett. Pickett on the far side has Drake to beat. Drake comes inside, and down there are the wingers Mills and Chapman. And that was dangerous for St George. St East's now right down the other end of the ground. Still in possession. It's gone to Beatson. Beatson back to Reinberger to Peard, who drops it. And it's dived on by a St George player, and they regain possession. It's Bailey to play it for St George on his own quarter line. Smith running it wide of the ruck. Took it from the first pass. Plays it back now to Stone, who dummied and tried to beat Stevens, but Stevens wrestles him to the ground in the centre of the field and not far out from the St George quarter line. Back to Bailey, who goes himself midway now between the quarter line and halfway in centre field. Bailey plays it back. Stone gives it to Smith. St George look as though they're trying to slow the game down a little bit as Ferguson took it in the centres. He was tackled by Brass. Now Mills is tackled by Brass. Can't get out of the tackle. And East's quite adamant they're not going to let St George get out of this territory. Tartner went to kick, had to hold it up, but then got it in again. It bounces in the field of play. It's down to the ground, and players from everywhere looking to get the ball back. It's eventually held by Mills, though, for St George, and the tackle count restarted. So St George have the ball now out from the quarter line, and Beather's on the rampage, crosses the quarter line for St George. I feel they got the ball back in somewhat lucky circumstances, but now's their chance to make something of it. Ferguson on the blind side, caught by Walters. 3 tackles to go for St George. 20 metres out from the East's goal line. East's leading 5-0. Smith now to Bailey. Outside is Stone. Stone dummied. Went straight into the tackle, though, of John Peard and couldn't go any further. Now Fitzgerald, dummy half, gives it to Smith. Outside is Tartner, but Smith is held with the ball, still gets it back to Ferguson. Ferguson accelerating. Ferguson very nearly through the defence. 11 metres out in front of the goal posts, and another good chance for a kick. It's gone to Smith. Smith, a little bit more depth in the kick this time. It's a high one. Stone underneath, so to his Langlands, and it's Schubert's ball. Schubert is tackled in his own in-goal area. It's loose, though, dived on. And Laurie Breyers had ruled a halt to play anyway.
Referee Laurie Breyers ruled that Schubert had forced the ball before he lost it, and it looked a good decision from here. He was on the ball, on the ground with the ball. But St George they failed to capitalise on a golden opportunity just a couple of minutes ago when Tartner put that high kick in the air. Certainly they were lucky to retrieve it. But when Mills did get the ball with the St George line wide open, he was held in the tackle, but Teddy Goodwin was standing there calling for it on the inside with a clear run to the line.
Brass restarts play with a drop kick, not a very good one. Just over the quarter line, taken by Bailey, who steps out of tackles, then held up by Mullins, the winger. He'll play it back now. Drake, dummy half, gets the pass away to Smith, who reverses back to Drake but goes himself. He's caught on the quarter line by Stevens and Mullins and Walters, and he'll play it. Out now to Fitzgerald, has Tartner outside. Tartner comes running onto the ball, but not firmly enough, I don't think. He was easy prey for the Eastern Suburbs defence. 8 minutes before half-time, as Stone takes the pass, drops it though, dives on the ball for the knock-on, and forces a scrum in the centre of the Eastern Suburbs quarter line. Stone was hurt in that last tackle. He was on the ground on the ball when an Easts player dived on top of him, no doubt just making sure that he didn't get to his feet. But it was probably unnecessary on the Eastern Suburbs defenders' part because the knock-on had already been ruled.
Melbourne placings: number 6, Mary Batchelor first, 3, Native Guide second, 4, Aim High third. Correct weight from the studio.
In the rugby final, Northern Suburbs leading Randwick 6-0.
Scrum goes down and it's won by Easts. Mays takes the ball away on the open side but was held down on the tackle by Lindsay Drake. Plays it back now and Hedger goes himself, gets a pass away to Stevens. Outside is Sherbert. Sherbert penetrating the defence and he's through. Sherbert running up to Langlands. Langlands misses him. Sherbert still going, has Pickett with him. Can't get the ball away though. A great run by Ian Sherbert from one quarter line to the other. He plays it back and it's Pickett from the wing who goes himself. And Pickett is down 15 metres out from the St George goal line. Back to Stevens, then to Coote, on to Beatson, who's running hard. Beatson caught by Drake, gets the ball back. It's on the ground. Mays dives for it, so too did Smith. Mays is ruled in possession, and so the knock-on will be played with a scrum on the St George quarter line. And East's most unlucky not to have scored their second try.
Yes, they certainly were. They're certainly playing great football out here this afternoon. Their defence is well nigh impregnable, and their first tacklers are picking up the St George men with the ball. St George's only opportunity appeared to be that kick over the top, and in attack they're certainly moving onto the ball, spinning it around, trying to get into their free-flowing style of play, and they're certainly subjecting this St George defence to a lot of pressure. The St George defence has cracked on quite a few occasions out here this afternoon, and Easts are a bit unlucky that they're not in a much more commanding position than what they are.
Arthur Beatson, Keith, we must talk about this. The scrum broke up and a penalty was awarded to St George because Arthur Beatson broke quickly from the second row, dived on the ball. He was ruled as having broken in an offside position from the scrum, but he has not got to his feet after going to the ground, and no doubt he's suffering from rib injuries. He's been suffering, carrying this rib injury for quite a number of weeks. Trainer Alf Richards is over there and peering down Arthur Beatson's jersey. And Arthur Beatson, I can tell you, and I'm sure Keith Barnes would support me, is not a player to stay on the ground unless he was injured.
No, not at this stage, Alan. It's he's certainly a very important figure for Eastern Suburbs. Beatson is starting to come into the play a lot more now in these last 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so. He's starting to hit the line, and we saw one occasion there where he charged some 20-25 yards downfield before he took the pass, going through at his top. But it's good news for Eastern Suburbs. It looks as if he's back into the play.
Scrums are favouring Easts by 6-4 and the penalties favouring St George by 4-1. The second kick has been taken by St George. It goes to Tartner, and he's under a lot of trouble though by the St George defence. And it might be interesting if we can keep our eyes on Beatson. He's moving up very slowly, but we'll watch him in defence as St George take the ball. And there's a head-high tackle against winger John Chapman, but it's gone the other way. The penalty has gone against St George for a Shepherd. Penalty to Eastern Suburbs, a chance for a shot at goal. Arthur Beatson looking at him still, coming across and just shaking his head at John Brass, and I think that's to indicate a shot at the touchline rather than a shot at goal. But all the East players...
I think Johnny Brass is probably going to take the kick, Alan.
Yes, he is. All the other players are helping him gather some soil to build a mound. So if there are any kicking duties to be spread here, no doubt John Peard will take the close-in shots and John Brass to take the goal shots at a longer range.
Well, that's what it looks like. Of course, Brass was the leading point scorer for Eastern Suburbs throughout the season, and then we saw Johnny Peard come to the fore last week and kick 8 in a row. Probably this would be the maximum of Johnny Peard's kicking range, but we did see him kick that fine goal last week right from the touchline into the breeze. But Beatson has given it to Johnny Brass, who's a very top-rate goal kicker. It's 5 points to nil at the moment. 5 minutes to go before half-time, and Brass moves in. It's going to fall well short of the posts. Underneath it was Langlands, who took it beautifully. He was tackled as he ran out into the field of play
by the Eastern Suburbs defence, 15 metres out in front of his own goalposts. 4 minutes before half-time, East's leading 5 points to 0. A try scored by Johnny Mays, converted by John Peard.
Correct weight, Moonee Valley.
Back now to Smith from dummy half, who just put his head down into the defence and was tackled only a few metres out from the line. And while St George are taking the ball one at a time, we've got the opportunity of mentioning that it was in this period that St George East's overwhelmed Manly in their match, scoring quite a decisive try in the 5 minutes before the half-time break. Let's see if they can do it again. 5 minutes to go, one tackle to go for St George. Tartner puts the boot to ball, kicks it downfield. Pickett is underneath it, takes it well. Comes up towards halfway, tries to beat Chapman. He does, he went straight through him. Smith back there, though, to effect the tackle, to knock the winger for the ground. And Pickett is having a good game. Stevens now dummy half goes himself, got under the first tackle. Second rowers Stone and Fitzgerald were there to hold him down. And Stevens gets to his feet slowly. Now it's gone to Beaton, passes away out to Brass, then it's gone to Peard to Schubert. Schubert up from fullback, gets away from Goodwin. He's still going. Goodwin comes again though and holds him down just short of the St George quarter line in centre field. Play back to Walters, given to Mays. Out it's gone now to Mackay coming in field. Mackay caught by Edge, and going over the top was Henry Tartner. But Easts are inside the St George quarter. Beatson takes it from dummy half, caught by Goodwin. Stands up. In there is Drake trying to get the ball away. It takes 4 St George players to halt his progress. One tackle to go. Mays takes it one-handed out to Stevens. Stevens kicks ahead. It's a cross kick. Underneath it is Drake. Up goes Beath, who called for it. He takes it well in front of his own posts. And that's the danger gone for St George, temporarily at least, while they run the ball out. It's Fitzgerald's job, and he drops it to the ground. Lindsay Drake, who threw the pass from dummy half, put his hands in the air in despair. A knock-on for St George, a scrum to go down only 10 metres out from their own goal line.
Bad mistake for St George with half-time coming up. Very vital scrum this one. Eastern Suburbs looking to apply the pressure and increase this 5-0 advantage that they have.
The ball comes out the St George's side of the scrum, and referee Breyer is not happy with it because of the 12 players who packed down in the scrum. There were 11 on the ground. So the scrum to be formed. And the ball put in the scrum now. And an East's ball, it's Mays taking it the blind side, trying to get through. Drake was out there, and eventually it was Langlands who did the tackling. It's played. Stevens goes himself from dummy half, puts his head down, tried to get underneath the tackle of Fitzgerald's, but Fitzgerald and Langlands were both there. 4 tackles for East. Coote dummy half, gets it out to Peard, turns it inside to Mackay. Mackay running hard across in front of the St George posts. Only 7 metres out from the St George line. Now Mays gives it out to Peard. The ball is dropped on the ground, dived on by Schubert. And Schubert retains possession for Easts. Tackles running out. Walters dummy half, gives it out to Beatson. Beatson back inside, but he keeps it himself. He's held up though by Edge and Beath. 1 tackle to go. Walters dummy half. It's gone to Brass. Brass a shot for field goal from right in front, and he's missed it. It's gone to the left of the posts. No goal. And with 2 minutes remaining before the half-time break is taken, East's lead St George 5 points to 0, and play to come back out to the St George quarter line for the restart of play, where hooker Stephen Edge takes the tap kick.
Eastern Suburbs do a lot of first-class lead-up work, but they're just not able to put finishing touches to promising try-scoring movements.
Now St George still in possession, 15 metres short of halfway. It's been a very tight first half. Only the one scoring opportunity, a try and a goal. St George's ball. Now it's gone back to Goodwin, who tries to accelerate through the defence. Was tackled after making about 6 or 7 metres. Plays it back to Fitzgerald, not too well either, but it's gone now to Tartner. Tartner stands up, gets the ball back, and it's gone to another of the St George players who couldn't beat the defence, and he's tackled on halfway. Getting to his feet was Edge to play it back to Drake. Half-time siren sounding. It's gone to Goodwin. Goodwin a long pass over the head of many players. It's gone to Stone. Stone has Ferguson running wide on the far side. Ferguson bumped off Stevens. He gets the pass back inside to Chapman. Chapman throws it back inside. A kick in the air put up by Smith. Fitzgerald underneath it. Schubert waits for it. It comes down to Schubert. Taken by Drake. Drake on his way to the line. Throws the ball back. A loose pass. It's still on the ground. Out it's gone to Goodwin. Goodwin going himself. Goodwin close to the line. Stands it up. Gets it to Langlands. Langlands wide. Has his winger outside, but he's caught. Caught by winger Bill Mullins. And St George kept that ball alive after it should have gone dead some 3 or 4 times. A gallant attempt to try and get points on the board before half-time. They failed. And so at half-time, East go in with a lead of 5 points to 0. A try scored by Johnny Mays after 25 minutes, converted by John Peard. Peard 1 goal from 1 attempt. Henry Tartner has missed with his only attempted goal for St George, and John Brass has also missed with one shot for goal for Easts. At half-time, the scrums are favouring Easts by 7-4, penalties favouring St George by 4-2. At half-time, Easts 5, St George 0. And play just about to resume here in the second half. There are no changes to either side. Arthur Beetson back out there for Easts, and Graham Langlands, who we also suspect is carrying some result of that last groin injury he suffered throughout this match. But Easts have kicked off now in the second half, and the ball's been taken by Langlands right back on his own quarter line. He gets to his feet slowly and plays it to one of his forwards, who runs it wide of the ruck on the far side of the ground, and second rower Stone made about 5 metres. It's picked up from dummy half and given to Smith, who gives it out to Tartner. Tartner goes up the middle of the field though, couldn't get the ball away before being tackled by Walters. Just out from the quarter line, Beat sends it out to Smith and then to Bailey, out to Goodwin. Goodwin running wide of Mays, couldn't get away from him because he was sandwiched between Mays and Brass. Dummy half is Ferguson, who gives it back to Smith. Smith kicks downfield. It's a long one. Schubert underneath it, takes it easily on halfway. Schubert comes down to Beath and knocks Beath right off. Beath was knocked right over to the ground. Eventually Fitzgerald there to tackle him on the ground. Schubert played it, went to Piggott and then out to Hedger, running wide though. Hedger was tackled by Edge, only 11 metres inside the St George half. Pass has gone to Coote, out it's gone to Beetson, running wide, turns it back to Mackay. Mackay got out of the first tackle by Bailey, but it was then held to the ground. Brass dummy half got it away to Mays, seeing a gap in the forward defence of St George. It closed quickly with both Tartner and Fitzgerald there to see that he didn't move any further. 12 metres out from St George's quarter line. Beetson dummy half goes himself, fires a long pass to Brass, then out to Coote, who was running wide. Coote, stepping out of numerous tackles, was eventually held though by winger Paul Mills on the far side of the ground. One tackle to go. Peard is there. Peard will kick a high one in the air now. Langland's underneath it. No, it's Smith. Smith waits. The ball in the air though. It's an Easts ball. Tackle count starting again. Stevens has it. Throws a long pass out to Brass. Brass reverses it to Beetson. Beetson gets out of a couple of tackles, then comes back in towards the posts. Beetson is almost there, and he's tackled only about 5 metres out from the St George goal line. Picked up by Mackay from dummy half. He charges and scores. Mackay under the posts. A try to Ian Mackay, seeing the opportunity with the St George defence scattered around because Easts had moved the ball so quickly that Mackay was able to dive over underneath the posts, and it takes the scores to 8-0 in favour of Easts after only 2.5 minutes of the second half.
Yes, and of course that's reminiscent of the way Eastern Suburbs started the second half last week against Manly Warringah. They came straight out and put their seal on the match in that vital couple of minutes straight after half-time, and they've done exactly the same thing out here this afternoon. Great try by Eastern Suburbs. Some lax defence on St George, particularly amongst their forwards there. Arthur Beetson was the player that took the brunt of the St George attack defence when he went charging through the ruck. But it was Ian Mackay on hand, determined to go straight through the middle of the St George pack and plant the balls firmly between the posts. And of course St George now lead by 10. Eastern Suburbs lead by 10-0.
And we'll just have time to get this kick in with Peard now to take the conversion attempt from right in front. He shouldn't miss it, and he's almost ready now to take the kick. 8-0 the score. Tries have been scored by Mackay and Mays, and Peard now lining up for his second goal. Moves in now, and this should make it 10-0. It does. East 10, St George 0 after 4 minutes of play in the second half.
As they pass the post in the second leg of the Daddy Double at Eagle Farm, 5, 2 and 8. First, Matt Lake. Second, number 2, Sovereign Secret. And third, number 8, Sovereign Crest.
In the second minute of the third quarter at Melbourne, North Melbourne 6-6-42 are leading Richmond 4-7-31.
Now the kick-off has been taken, and the crowd on the far side of the ground thought there was a knock-on, but referee Bruyere said no, and East's allowed to retain possession 15 metres short of halfway. Schubert plays it back. It's gone to Beetson now, who unloads it to Walters going down the middle, pushed off a tackle by Smith, who was down there, but eventually held down by Edge. Plays it back to Peard. It's gone to Beetson. Outside him is Coote. Takes a long pass. Coote knocks it on, though. A good long pass thrown by Beetson, but Coote just couldn't read it. It might well have been running into the breeze now, which is blowing up a little bit more strongly in this second half in St George's favour. A breeze coming down from the southwest.
St George not capitalising on this breeze either, because I feel that Graham Langlands isn't fit out there this afternoon. He hasn't kicked once from general play. It was Billy Smith that attempted to clear the line there, and he's probably something 30 yards shorter than Langlands with his punt kicks.
Now Schubert takes the ball as it was won by Easton. He got it away beautifully to Brass, and on it's gone to Reinberger, and then Reinberger held up in the tackle, tried to get it back. He does now to Stevens, who gets it away to Mackay. Then it's gone to Mullins in from the far wing, and Mullins is downfield, gets out of a tackle by Goodwin, but he's dropped in a good tackle by Langlands, right down on the St George quarter line. The ball is played, Coote stands up in it, and he's tackled in front of the St George posts, about 18 metres out. Plays it back now to Mays, gives it to Beatson. Beatson running across field, turns it back the other way to Walters. Walters out to Peard, and then he gets it away again. Mackay stands in the tackle, gets it back once more to Peard. Peard reverses play once more. It's gone to Stevens, to Schubert, out to Brass. Brass is held with the ball. He loses it though, dived on by another Easts player. A knockback ruled, and Easts retain possession outside the St George quarter line. Schubert plays it back. Stevens gives it to Mays. On it's gone to Beatson, who didn't read it, and it's towed downfield, and the ball comes into the hands of Ferguson for St George, and Ferguson will play it 12 metres short of halfway. Smith takes the first pass, reverses to Tartner. Tartner goes in amongst the forwards, unloads it well to Drake. Drake stepping out of tackles. Drake is away. Drake kicks ahead of Schubert, follows the kick downfield. Brass could be too fast. Peard is back there, but it's picked up instead by Pickett. No, it was Hedger who was down there. And it's still East's ball out in front of their own goalposts. Walters throws a pass back to Brass onto Peard, has Schubert outside. Peard stands it up though, gives the pass back inside to Brass, down to his own quarter line before he's tackled nicely around the ankles by Tartner.
Correct Wake, Edel Farm.
Ball played and given out to Mays, who passes back to Walters, who comes in field, turns it back to Stevens again. Stevens nowhere to go, surrounded by the defence. He's tackled though by Tartner and Bailey and held down in the centre of his own quarter line. Walters turns the ball back to Brass, who sends a kick downfield looking for the touchline. A kick spinning towards touch and finds it too. John Brass deliberately kicking that ball on the outside of his boot to impart spin to it, and it bounced inside the field of play and spun out into touch for a scrum to go down between the St George quarter line and halfway.
Clever play by Johnny Brass. He's having a great game in general play too, proving a lot of trouble to Ferguson and Goodwin out there this afternoon. But Eastern Suburbs in full gear now. They're moving the ball superbly, backing each other up and putting a lot of pressure on St George. They're certainly changing the point of the attack repeatedly. And now we're in the situation where they've been given another penalty, some 15 yards inside St George half, and obviously Brass will kick for touch, looking to apply even more pressure to this very somewhat stretched-looking St George defence.
Brass kicking for touch, finds it too. It's a good kick. A great kick by Brass, only 12 or 13 metres out from the St George goal line. And now here again is danger spelling for the St George defence. Second kick will be taken by Mays, gives it to Schubert, takes it back again, and Mays goes racing across field, unloads it to Mullins, who comes bursting in from a fullback position, but he was anticipated by the defence and tackled by Langlands. Played now, given to Walters to Beatson. Beatson downfield is held up though by Drake and Tartner, still trying to wrestle the ball away from those defenders, and is tackled 10 metres out. Gets to his feet, plays it back now. Walters turns it out to Mays. Mays goes through the defence and is tackled only 5 metres away from the St George goal line, with East still leading 10 points to 0. Mays to Walters, who goes himself from dummy half, dives for the line. He's not there. He's very close. He's only just short of the line. Walters gets to his feet, plays it back to Mays. A quick pass that goes to Beatson. Beatson to Mackay, and Mackay is upended by Bailey, who went right around the ankles to tackle him close to the line. Stevens to Beatson. Beatson scores. He loses the ball. No. Referee Breyer says a try. Referee Breyer says Beatson tackled short of the line, reached out and grounded the ball before it was knocked loose. And that's another try to East, scored by their skipper Arthur Beatson. And it's 13 points to 0 after 9 minutes of the second half.
It looks as if Beatson's injured too going in. It was Beatson at full stretch there, bursting onto the ball. From this position, it looked as if he bounced the ball. But referee Breyer was right on the spot and had no hesitation in ruling a fair try. Eastern Suburbs, of course, 13 points to 0. They look as if they've got this premiership well and truly sewn up. They put their mark on the game in the first half when they subjected the St George defence to a lot of pressure. They weren't able to finish off a lot of promising try-scoring movements, but they've come out now in this second half and they've really blitzed their opposition. They've run in for 2 great tries, 1, 2 or 3 minutes after the start of the second half, and then another one now in this 10th minute. Elwyn Walters is winning them a good share of possession, and they're certainly relishing in this free-flowing style that they're producing out here this afternoon. The scrum count at the moment is 8 scrums to 4 in favour of Eastern Suburbs, and of course we were looking at the situation where Stephen Edge was expected to dominate the scrums to the tune of 2-1, but the position has been reversed, and consequently St George are being called upon to do a lot of tackling, and it's obvious that there's going to be a few more gaps in this St George defence. Graham Langlands is looking a very worried fellow out there at the moment underneath his own goalpost as Johnny Peard lines up trying to kick Eastern Suburbs to a 15-0 advantage.
Peard is placing the ball about 20 metres out from the goal line. He's only about 20 metres in from the far touchline. And here's a replacement coming out for St George. It looks as though Bruce Starkey will come on for Robert Stone probably in the second row. We'll have to wait to confirm that. Starkey coming out, but no sign as to who's going to be taken off the field for St George. Now Peard ready with the kick. Not very far to the left of the posts, kicking into the breeze. Moves in now. An accurate looking kick that's gone out to the left and he's missed it. No goal. East still lead 13-0 after 11 minutes of the second half. And it is Robert Stone who's going off the field. His replacement in the second row is Bruce Starkey.
Yes, and I suppose you can hear some wags in the crowd singing out to take Johnny Peard off, because that was his first miss after 10 successive shots at goal. So I think we can forgive Johnny Peard for missing that one.
So now the start of play has been taken, and East have the ball midway between their own quarter line and halfway, and it's up to Elwyn Walters to try to bullock his way up the middle, and he did the job quite well by making about 10 or 11 metres. Now he plays it back to Hedger, who twists out of tackles, goes up the blind side, ran straight into Tartner and is picked up and dumped to the ground by Tartner and Drake. But he gets to his feet slowly, plays it on halfway. Walters out to Beatson, has Coote outside. Coote accelerates wide of the ruck, and he's caught though by Beef. Dragged to the ground by Beef and Winger Mills on the far side, just inside the St George half. 13-0. Pickett sends a pass inside. It's gone back to Peard though. Peard, trying to get under numerous tackles, was held to the ground by Starkey, who's moving straight into the action. Playing it now to Mays on halfway, then to Brass. Brass a high kick. Langland's underneath it, but it's going to fall well short of Langlands. It comes down, in fact, to Mackay, who gets the ball back, and then it's gone on again to Brass. Brass in the centres for East, turns it back inside, picked up by Schubert. Schubert down to the St George quarter line, is tackled there by Bailey. It was the sixth tackle for East, and a scrum to go down on the St George quarter line.
And what a strong game Schubert has had out here this afternoon. He's been in everything. He's been tremendously difficult to stop, bursting onto the ball, and he's virtually up there playing as an extra centre for most of the game.
Ball put in the scrum. It's won by St George. Smith gets it out to Bailey. Bailey had nowhere to go, with both Peard and Stevens getting up to him very quickly in defence. It's played now, and Beath tries to run it away from the dummy half position, but in fact loses ground under the pressure of a good strong tackle from Beatson. Gets to his feet now. Beatson tries to win the ball in the play of the ball. It's eventually raked back by Beath, and then it's given to Starkey, who works himself wide on the blind side. Was tackled though by Johnny Mays without gaining any yardage at all. Edge now gives it to Tartner, who sets himself to run hard into the defence. Was knocked back in a bruising tackle. Got the ball back, and it's Drake who tries to penetrate the defence out wide. Caught by Beatson and Coote, coming in for a fair deal of aggressiveness in that tackle too, and Beatson is then knocked aside from the tackle. St George still retain possession. Smith tries a short kick over the top. Pickett is underneath it, takes it nicely. Pickett in possession for East, is caught though around the ankles by the defence, and will play it for East's 30 metres out from the St George goal line. Now Mackay wide of the ruck, then comes back amongst the forwards, where he's tackled by Starkey, almost down on the St George quarter line. Pickett gives it into Mays, then it's gone to Walters, running wide again. Walters caught by Goodwin and Edge, and tackled on the centre of the quarter line, with East working themselves into another good attacking position. It's gone to Coote, who steps out of a couple of tackles, then is held by Beatson, by Tartner and Goodwin, and will play it 15 metres out. Peard dummy half, out to Stevens, then out to Mackay, has Mays with him. Mays couldn't beat the defence, driven back in a strong tackle by Beath. It's the fifth tackle, one to go. Stevens didn't get time to kick, got the ball back to Mays, to Peard at least, who got it to Beatson. Beatson sends a good pass out to Schubert. Schubert trying to beat the defence. Ferguson, the centre, was there to tackle him. And so a scrum for the sixth tackle will go down 15 metres out on the far side of the ground, 15 metres in from touch, with East's leading 13-0.
Dividends on the second leg of the daily double. at Eagle Farm. 5, 2 and 8. First, Mark Lake, $3.30 and 70 cents. Second, Sovereign Secret, 40 cents. Third, Sovereign Crest, $1.45. And the daily double paid $74.70, with the special double at Eagle Farm, $4.80.
As they passed the post at Moonee Valley, Bold Mayo first, number 1, 10 Impeller second, and 8 Golden Rumour third.
Back at the Sydney Cricket Ground, Easts have the ball. They're attacking again on the St George quarter line. It's gone to Mays, who couldn't get away from a very good tackle from hooker edge and was put down on the quarter line. Plays it to Stevens, though, gives it out to Beatson, who runs wide, turns it back the other way. Coote on the burst, Coote is through. Coote almost there, 10 metres out, gets the ball to Brass, and Brass is under the posts. And a dumbfounded St George defence just didn't know what happened there. And what an incredible ability not only Arthur Beatson but numerous players in this Eastern Suburbs side have of being able to stand in a tackle and look to be hopelessly held but still manage somehow to get the ball away to a support who's racing up wide outside. That's how the try was scored. 16 points to 0 the score after 16 minutes of play in the second half.
And that's certainly been the secret of their success right throughout the season, their ability to keep the ball in play and to have players running onto the passes at all opportunities, at every opportunity. And that's something that we saw again there. Arthur Beatson was the instigator of the move. He works a lot of set plays, of course, around the likes of Ronnie Coote and Johnny Peard, Johnny Mays, etc. But on that particular occasion, it was Beatson that drew the defence, slipped a very clever pass to Ronnie Coote coming through on the burst, and what a powerful burst it was too, and he found himself on the clear. But how did Johnny Brass get into a situation to be on the inside and back up that pass when Ron Coote was finally trapped by the St George defence? As you can gather, Johnny Peard has kicked the goal, and Eastern Suburbs have kicked away to an 18 points to 0 lead. But when they went off at half-time, only leading by 5 points to 0, I thought that they were in for a tremendous struggle in the second half. I was expecting the St George defence to the St George attack really to start applying some pressure, but it was Eastern Suburbs that grabbed the game by the throat in the second minute when they scored their try, and certainly they're well in control at this time.
So the score, 18 points to 0 after 16 minutes of the second half. John Peard, 3 goals from 3 attempts now, and the try scorers for Easts have been Mays, Mackay, Beatson and Brass. Scrum just going down very close to the Eastern Suburbs goal line after Mullins had knocked on from the kick-off. And we might just wait and see what happens here with the scrum very close to the Eastern Suburbs goal line. Ball to be put in the scrum by halfback Mays of Easts, and a penalty goes to St George, and it's going to be against the East hooker Elwyn Walters, to be spoken to in the presence of Arthur Beatson. And the penalty goes to St George, only a few metres out from the Eastern Suburbs goal line.
Langlands, of course, has no other decision to make but to go for the tap penalty.
Yes, he's given it to Tartner for the tap penalty, and Tartner tries to barge his way through. Very nearly got through, but he was eventually held by Hedger and Mackay. Plays it now. Smith gives it away to Starkey. Starkey well caught. Gets it back to Bailey. Bailey got a great tackle from Brass, and Brass has stolen the ball for Easts. Brass has got the ball for Easts, and it's Coote running it out, crashing into Tartner's tackle. Helped, though, by Beath, and held down to the ground about 20 metres out from his own goal line. Mackay sends the ball back to Mullins, who's in from the wing to have a run with it. He gets up to the quarter line, made about 4 metres. Plays it back to Stevens, who goes himself, then it's back to Beatson. Beatson certainly not playing as though he's injured. He got a pass away to Hedger. Hedger was tackled by both Tartner and Drake. They've combined in some strong tackles today. But he gets to his feet, plays it back to Mays, gets the ball out to Mackay, who's running wide, straightens it up, comes upfield, 12 metres short of halfway on the 5th tackle. He's held to the ground by Tartner. Now it's played. Peard gets it out to Stevens. Stevens dummy to kick, got it to Brass, a long pass that's gone right out to Reinberger in the centres, who got it away to Pickett. Pickett downfield, kicks ahead. It's wide of Langlands. Langlands looking for the ball, and Pickett can't quite pick it up. It crossed the touchline on the St George quarter line, so there'll be a delay with a scrum to go down, and East's leading 18 points to 0.
Correct weight in Melbourne, 1, 10 and 8. First Bold Mayo, second Impeller, third Golden Rumour. And also in Melbourne, North Melbourne starting to draw away from Richmond. They're leading by 58 points to 32.
Ball put in the scrum. It's won by St George, and Smith had nowhere to go with Pickett coming in from the blind side wing, halting his progress on the open side. Plays it back to Beath, and he tries to go the blind side, but he ran into the worst thing possible, running straight into Arthur Beatson. He gets down now, plays it back. It's Edge out to Smith, then out to Bailey. Had Starkey outside. Bailey running through. Beat the first tackle of Peards, but in there was prop forward Hedger to halt him going any further. Plays it back again now, and Smith on the blind side. Crashed to the ground by Beatson. Tried as though he was about to get the pass away, and Arthur Beatson loomed up. But there's Tartner running with it. He turns it back to Fitzgerald. The ball on the ground. It's Goodwin throwing a pass out to the winger Chapman. He's got nowhere to go. Comes inside. Caught though by Mays, who's done a tower of tackling for Easts in this game. And that's St George making only about 15 metres in possession in 5 tackles. Smith runs at the blind side, gives it to Beath. He's caught though by Hedger and Mays. And on the 6th tackle is put to the ground on halfway. And another scrum to go down with about 20 minutes remaining. East still leading 18 points to 0.
In the rugby final, Northern Suburbs leading Randwick 13-0.
St George attackers here yards slower than Eastern Suburbs, their counterparts out here today. On a couple of occasions, Billy Smith has been left standing there with the ball, looking for the runners. But unfortunately for him and St George, they're nowhere to be seen.
St George win another scrum, and Goodwin gets a good pass right out to Ferguson. Ferguson well tackled by Reinberger, getting him right around the legs. Plays it back to Goodwin. He sets sail upfield. Gets it pass again away to Ferguson. Ferguson almost in the clear, and Coote drops him with a lovely covering tackle midway between the East's quarter line and halfway. Ferguson, a good runner though, gets to his feet, plays it back, and it's wide on the far side of the ground, and Langlands turns the ball back into Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald is tackled almost down on the Eastern Suburbs quarter line. Goodwin back to Smith. Outside is Bailey. Bailey out to Drake. Drake steps inside, a tackle of Hedger. He's caught though by Mays, held down by Peart and Mays, and will play it on the quarter line. Edges dummy half, gets it to Bailey. Bailey puts a high up and under in the air. Underneath it is Schubert. The ball coming down. Players wait. Schubert takes it beautifully and in fact runs out over the quarter line. He's still going. Gets the ball away to Pickett, and Pickett might be too fast for Langlands. Langlands across in cover defence, and he's given up the chase, and Pickett will sprint away and put the ball under the posts. Run down by Paul Mills eventually, and another great try scored by Easts. And it's remarkable how Easts have been able to turn defence into attack, because that move started when Ian Schubert took the ball in front of his own goal posts, going up to retriever position where St George looked dangerous.
Yes, and that's certainly the secret of East's success. They're always looking to get into the play and always looking to capitalise on every opportunity that presents itself. And on that occasion, similar to the one in the first half, where Pickett was the instigator of that great try by Johnny Mays, we saw Eastern Suburbs under pressure when they put the high kick up in the air. Ian Schubert took the ball brilliantly. He's had a tremendous game out there this afternoon, young Schubert, as we mentioned some 5 or 10 minutes ago. He took the ball superbly, and with the St George defence bearing down on him, he showed a clever change of pace, sidestep, breakthrough, and then of course Pickett sensed the opportunity that there was a try on the board and loomed up on the outside, and good play by Schubert. He was able to give him a well-timed pass, and we saw Pickett run some 70 metres to score a great try.
In the VFL, North Melbourne 8-10-58, leading a rejuvenated Richmond 6-9-45.
And John Peart now to have the shot for goal right in front of the St George posts. It's 21 points to 0, 21-0, and Peart now to make it his 4th goal from 5 attempts. He shouldn't miss this, kicking from straight in front, and there it is, another 2 points, 23 points to 0. And St George have got to see out another 15 minutes of play. 23 points to 0, and the official attendance just being semaphored now on the scoreboard, and quite a good attendance of just over 63,000. Ball back on halfway. Tartner starts off. It goes straight to Mackay. Mackay caught in possession for Easts, though, just short of halfway. Plays it back to Walters, who goes himself, turns it back to Beatson, and then on to Peart. Peart slipped to the ground, though, when he ran to the defence, and will play it back again to Beatson, who goes wide of the ruck. There's Schubert taking the first pass, and Schubert is caught over halfway, driven to the ground by Bailey and Goodwin in 2 strong tackles. Once again, Walters dummy half, St George's territory. It's gone to Mackay, giving it away to Hedger, who puts his head down, tried to duck under the tackle, but Starkey was there to take him head on. And Hedger will play it back again to Walters. Now to Mays, out to Beatson. On running onto him was Brass, and Brass penetrating the defence. A great spurting run that almost got him through before he was tripped at the last moment. Plays it to Pickett, back inside to Beatson, on to Peart. A long way in field is Mackay, who sends a pass to Mackay to Stevens, then to Coote, back to Stevens, inside to Mackay. Mackay went to the ground with the ball when he wasn't able to get it away on the 6th tackle. And another scrum to go down, 12 metres out from the St George quarter line. 23 points to 0 the score and about 15 minutes to go.
East were criticised, of course, last week for relaxing in the second half and allowing Manly back into the game when they ran in 3 late second half tries. And this could probably be unfortunate for St George out there this afternoon because East's a point hungry.
Now they're on the rampage again and Mullins has the ball. Mullins streaking downfield. Was knocked over in a good tackle, though, by Ferguson after he chased him all the way downfield. Stevens now gets it out to Peard. Back it's gone to Reinberger to Schubert. Schubert coming the open side. Schubert almost there and he's down about 2 metres short. Schubert will play it back to Stevens. Stevens tries to dive himself, but he's caught by Langlands, forcing him back into the field of play. Playing it to Walters. Walters a pass to Mays, who goes himself. Mays is there. Mays will score. An easy try to Johnny Mays. His second try. And St George aren't going to ease up yet. They're going to make this a big victory if they can. 26 points to 0 the score. That try after 25 and a half minutes of the second half. And John Peard left with another fairly easy shot for the conversion.
Yes, well, we just keep repeating ourselves now and saying what superb football Eastern Suburbs are handing out. But I don't think you can pile too much praise on Eastern Suburbs out there this afternoon because they're certainly thrilling this 63,000 crowd. Probably the only people that are disappointed are St George supporters who came out here this afternoon with the hope that St George could certainly stretch Eastern Suburbs right out in their bid to retain their premiership. But it's been all Eastern Suburbs, and particularly in the second session, of course. They've ran in 5 superb tries in some 20 minutes, and it's been a great performance.
Well, we'll just wait for this kick to come up from John Peard because the September Welter is the next race at Rosehill over 1,500 metres. And Geoff Mahoney's description will be available in a moment, but we'll just wait for this shot. 4 goal by John Peard, who's kicked 4 goals from 5 attempts. The official attendance, 63,047. Results of earlier matches in under-23s. Cronulla defeated Balmain 20 points to 8. And in reserves, Parramatta defeated Cronulla by 21-13. It's 26 points to 0 in first grade. East's leading. And Peard kicks another goal, 4 from 5 attempts, and East's now lead by 28 points to 0 and about 14 minutes remaining in this first grade grand final.
Now here's Geoff Mahoney's description of the September Welter handicap at Rosehill.
Racing. Got them to a good start. Master Avon bounced out. Lucky Partner went through, though, to hit the lead from Trocadero on settling down. They're followed closely by Stroller's Image and Carlinker. There's Bourbon Lassie whipping around the outside. In behind them, Good Repute, Starstruck and Forgiving, and they're followed by Butch Cassidy in a prominent spot. In behind them, Martin Place, Kingston Rose is well back in the field, followed by Barrett Rouge. Master Avon is next to last, and Remember Jim. Bourbon Lassie going like the wind is in front at the 1,000 over Trocadero, and Lucky Partner third. They're followed by Carlinker. In behind them, Starstruck and then Good Repute. At the head of the others, then making ground around the outside is Butch Cassidy, followed by Barrett Rouge and Martin Place. Then came Stroller's Image and Forgiving on the rails to Kingston Rose, with Master Avon back near the tail enders. And Remember Jim. It's a very tight field at the 600 metres. Bourbon Lassie in front, about a neck over Trocadero, who's handy. Carlinker goes up on the outside to make a line of 3, and then on the outside of that pair, coming on pretty well, was Good Repute, with Barrett Rouge about 5 deep as they fan into the straight. Bourbon Lassie headed up, taken on though by Trocadero in the middle. Carlinker 3 out next, and they're followed closely by Starstruck. Then came on the inside Lucky Partner. Martin Place running on well. Trocadero shot away as they passed the 200 metres to Kingston Rose. Down the outside going to be the danger. Kingston Rose hit the lead with 100 to go, and it's all over. And Kingston Rose is going to win, running away from Starstruck. Master Avon third, then Martin Place, Lucky Partner, Trocadero, Stroller's Image, followed home by Forgiving, then Bourbon Lassie, Good Repute, Remember Jim, a long way to Butch Cassidy and Barrett Rouge, and the last of them getting well back to last was Carlinker. Correct weight. Correct weight. Would you give weight, Martin?
That's the way they finished, 2:13 and 5. Kingston Rose first, Starstruck second, Master Avon third. Correct weight.
TAB evidence for race 8 at Moonee Valley. The numbers 1, 10 and 8. First, Bold Mayo, $2.50 and 85. Second, Impeller, 70 cents. Third, Golden Rumour, 75 cents. And the Daily Double paid $46.50. And still in Melbourne, North Melbourne, 8:12.59. Lead Richmond, 6:9.45.
Divs coming through on the Sydney race, but let's go back to Alan Marks first.
11 minutes remaining in the match. St George are in possession. East's leading 28 points to 0, and East's about to make 2 replacements. Bunny Riley and Des O'Reilly are both on the sideline waiting to come on, and I don't know who's going to be replaced. Arthur Beetson not looking too well, but then he obviously wouldn't want to leave the field just before winning a grand final, so we'll have to wait and not speculate on that one. The ball is infield though, and it's been given to Starkey, who ran upfield for St George just inside his own quarter, 20 metres in from touch. Another replacement coming out for St George.
Graham Langlands is obviously in a lot of pain out there with a leg injury, Alan.
And it looks like Robert Finch will probably come into the centres and Teddy Goodwin go to fullback for St George, but I don't think it really matters with only 10 minutes to go, and East's comfortably leading 28-0. Billy Smith not giving up though, sends a long pass, intercepted, and here's John Brass going in for another try under the posts, and there wasn't another player who moved on the field after that intercept was taken, and it was like something out of a comic book. There was no reaction at all from any player on the field bar John Brass after a long pass had been thrown, and Brass plucked it out of the air and sprinted 22 metres, 23 metres to score under the posts, 31 points to nil. And John Peer to have another shot for goal from right in front. And this victory, with Arthur Beetson getting a great round of applause as he leaves the field. And Ron Coote is also coming off. So both second rowers have been replaced for Eastern Suburbs. Number 11, Arthur Beetson. Number 10, Ron Coote coming off the field. And they've been replaced by Bunny Riley and Des O'Reilly. And no doubt they're very pleased, although they're not staying on the field for this victory. At least they're pleased to see their side in this position as they do leave the field in about 9 minutes to go. John Peard has the ball placed right in front of the posts. It's 31 points to nil. And he's moving into it now. And John Peard kicks 6 goals out of 7 attempts. 6 out of 7 for John Peard. It's 33 points to nil. About 8 minutes to go. And a very dejected St George group coming back to halfway.
Dividends on race 8 at Rosehill, the September Welter, 2.13 and 5. First Kingston Rose, J. Duggan, 75 cents and 45 cents. Second Starstruck, P. Cudahy, $2.15. Third Master Avon, B. Stein, 65 cents. The Daily Double paid $14.50, and the Quinella has yet to come through. In the second leg of the double at Newcastle, 5, 2 and 7, the numbers. The winner, Amber Light, paid 65 cents and 35 cents. Second, Streaming Star, 45 cents. And third, number 7, Maid Lad, 40 cents.
Just confirming that three-quarter time score in the VFL in Melbourne. North Melbourne 8, 11.59, lead Richmond 6, 9.45.
Where Des O'Reilly at the Sydney Cricket Ground now takes the ball 10 metres inside his own half and is tackled by Tartner on the far side of the ground. It's played back to Mays, given to Stevens. Stevens reverses it, gives it back again to, it looked like Mackay, who ran onto it well and was tackled 5 metres short of halfway. Mackay to his feet, plays it back. Walters gives it to Riley. Then it's out to Peard, who gets a long pass to Brass. Brass a long one out to Pickett, who steps around Chapman, still gets the ball back to Peard. The ball goes back inside to Riley. Riley running upfield is caught though by Edge and Starkey for St George, 12 metres short of halfway. Riley plays it back to Stevens. Stevens kicks ahead looking for the touch line. Goodwin is dropping back and the ball won't find touch. Goodwin will pick it up 10 metres out from his own goal line. Now he sets upfield looking to beat the defence. Kevin Stevens is there and drives him into the ground. A good tackle, and so St George have been restricted to only about 15 metres outside their own goal line. Billy Smith is caught by Stevens and held down almost on his quarter line. Edge picks it up, gives it to Beath. Beath runs across field, tackled by Riley and O'Reilly on his own quarter line with 2 tackles to go for St George. Edge throws it out to Tartner. Tartner tries to beat the defence, caught by Walters, wasn't able to get through, and he'll play it again for St George. Ferguson is dummy half, runs it wide of the ruck, sends a pass out. It's gone to Finch. Finch gets a loose pass that's gone to Mills. Mills in a lot of trouble. He's caught by Mullins and Brass, and he's held down. And we'll play it for the last time for St George. Smith, a high kick in the air. Shubin underneath it on halfway. Waits, takes it very calmly. Runs across field with it now. Has Reinberger in support. Reinberger downfield. Caught though by Beat. Gets the pass back to Peard. Peard gets a long pass out to O'Reilly. O'Reilly running downfield was beautifully tackled though by by Finch. Now it's played back to Walters, who goes upfield. And Walters again caught by Starkey and Tartner. Outside the St George quarter line, Stevens gets the pass back, and it's Mackay putting his head down as he charges into the opponents. and is held down just out from the St George quarter line. Stevens dummy half on the blind side to Brass. Brass a short kick in the air. Goodwin waits for it. It comes down to Goodwin. He's tackled by Brass, only 2 metres out from his own goal line. Goodwin stood his ground well then. Drake is there to support. He's caught though by the defence. John Peard doing the tackling. Picked up a dummy half by Edge. He tries to beat the defence. In comes Hedger with the help of Mays to keep him there. And Edge was hurt in that tackle, but gets to his feet and plays it. Billy Smith, dummy half, gets it away to Tartner. Tartner went to unload it. It would have been a dangerous pass now. He gets it back to Bailey. Bailey upfield, almost up to the halfway, to the quarterway line. And he was knocked over by the Eastern Suburbs defence. Strong contingent of policemen now starting to form a circle inside the boundary fence here at the Sydney Cricket Ground as play approaches full time. About 4.5 minutes to go, and Easts have got the ball back. In the centre of the St George quarter line, Stephen Edge is down, receiving attention behind play for St George. It's Mays in possession though. He's tackled on the quarter line. 33 points to 0 the score. Mays back to Walters, then it's to Riley, out to Mackay. Mackay turns it inside to Peard, who gets it back to Riley. Riley underneath tackles, caught by Tartner. Dragged to the ground, 20 metres out in front of the St George goal posts. Easts have scored 7 tries in this remarkable performance today. Des O'Reilly looking for try number 8. Turns it back to Riley, gives it to Walters, out to Stevens, then to Mackay. A long pass out to the centres. Brass dropped it. Knocked on though by Mullins as he kicked it over the goal line and across the touch-in goal line. Play to come back to the St George quarter line for the restart of play. Easts leading 33 points to 0 and 3.5 minutes to go.
I think it'll be a long 3.5 minutes for St George too, because I think Billy Smith and the boys out there now will be very glad when this final hooter goes. It's been a great season for it's been a long season. It's been a great season for Eastern Suburbs, of course, culminating with this tremendous performance out here this afternoon.
In fact, Keith, if St George aren't able to score in this match, this is going to be the highest winning margin in a grand final for a quarter of a century. Back in 1951, South beat Manly by 42-14, a winning margin of 28 points. And here are Easts leading by 33 points to 0.
Well, it's been a long time since we've seen any team so completely outplayed the way Easts have outplayed St George this afternoon.
And there was an example of it with Bailey kicking through, but Peard was there to dive on the ball. The ball comes back inside and it's gone to Reinberger. Reinberger accelerating through the gaps, throws an overhead pass to Pickett, and Pickett is grounded as he ran towards the touchline by Goodwin. Pickett getting to his feet slowly. That last tackle hurt him. Plays it to Reinberger and it's gone. Mullins a long pass to Mays. Then it's to Stevens. Back to Peard coming the blind side. Peard stepping out of tackles. It's so easy for them now. Mullins 12 metres out from the goal line. Couldn't get any further though. And he's held up by Tartner. Pickett is on the ground. He'll require attention. East have the ball. It's gone to Mackay. He gets a long pass to Schubert, who couldn't handle it cleanly. The ball on the ground, and Ferguson dives on it for St George. And St George are in possession 15 metres out from their own goal line. Now it's played again, and on the blind side goes winger Paul Mills, running wide of the ruck, noticing his opposite winger Bill Mullins was in with the forwards, but he was tackled out there by Mays. It's gone this time to Beath, and Beath couldn't do much about it. Crossing the quarter line, 30 metres out from his own goal line. And surely now it's only a question of playing out time for St George. They've used the ball across the three-quarter line. Finch in the centres was there to take it. He was held down, though, by both Reinberger and Mackay. Tartner dummy half, throws the pass back inside to Starkey, then on to Edge. Edge is caught, though, by the defence. Johnny Mays once again going low around the hips to effect the tackle. Starkey dummy half, back to Tartner. Then it's to Billy Smith. Smith, a long pass that's gone through Drake's hands. He got it back. It was a knockback ruled. Drake has been allowed to stride upfield, got to within 10 metres of halfway before being tackled by Walters and Reinberger. 33 points to 0 is the score in favour of Easts in this much one-sided second half of this grand final, as St George now have a chance to attack. They're over halfway. Mills gets the ball back to Starkey, turns it back to Fitzgerald, who gets it to Drake. Drake down to the quarter line is held up with it, and it was Edge eventually tackled with the ball on the sixth tackle for St George. An applause from this sympathetic crowd for showing some spark of attacking ability so late in the game when so far behind. About a minute to go now, 33 points to 0, and when you consider that the score at half-time was only 5 points to 0, then what a superb second half of football this has been from East, adding a further 28 points so far. Now the scrum going down outside East's goal line. It's put in by Mays, won by East. Mays gets a pass away to Peard, who steps inside Bailey, and Peard is on his way upfield. He's got Goodwin to beat. He runs wide of Goodwin looking for his winger. There's Mullins. Mullins infield, gets over Bailey's tackle, and he's caught on halfway though by the defence, with Billy Smith dropping back into a cover defensive role. It's played now, and going down the centre of the field was second rower Riley, who's come on to replace Ron Coote. Des O'Reilly dummy half, having replaced Arthur Beetson. It's gone to Stevens, out to Mackay, on to Schubert. Schubert is sprinting for the line. Schubert has Smith to beat. He pushes Smith off, and Schubert is in for a try. A great try to Easts. And the full-time siren to sound at any moment. Ian Schubert capping off a fine season for Easts, a fine one for himself. It was a try that began right down near their own goal line, but two players, firstly Johnny Peard and then Ian Schubert, combining for that try, and it's try number 8 for Eastern Suburbs to give them a lead of 36 points to 0, and the kick to come as the full-time siren is due to go at any moment.
Very well-deserved try by young Schubert. He's had a tremendous game out there this afternoon. He's been very safe with the ball up in the air. He's turned defence into attack on so many occasions. And each and every time he's joined into the back line, he's taken a lot of stopping. And it was a very determined run there when he pushed off a tackle by one of the best cover-defending players in the game in Billy Smith. And well, I feel it was a fitting reward for young Schubert if that has been Eastern Suburbs' final try in this game here this afternoon. They've proved themselves throughout the season to be the greatest side in the competition, and I thought that the odds were stacked against them this afternoon with so many injuries hanging over them and the doubt about Arthur Beetson whether he'd see out a torrid 80 minutes or so. But they've certainly hit back in superb fashion, and justice, I feel, has been done out here this afternoon.
Peard moving in for the conversion. It's on its way. A straight-looking kick that's right through the posts. You couldn't get at them any straighter than that. And that is the full-time siren. And a total of 8 tries and 7 goals to give St George a monumental defeat, and giving Eastern Suburbs tremendous memories of years to come of this, well, I would assume, near-record victory in a grand final.
So the Roosters won a second consecutive premiership with a resounding 38-0 thrashing of the Dragons in front of just over 63,000 spectators. It's a grand final that went down in rugby league folklore as it's best remembered for Graham Langlands and his infamous white boots, which brought added attention to what was a horror showing from the Dragons' captain coach, who played with a numb leg after a pre-match painkilling injection went wrong. The Dragons only had to wait 2 years before they tasted success by winning the 1977 premiership, while it proved to be a long time between drinks for the Roosters, whose next title did not come until 2002. Make sure to join us for our next edition of Finals Flashback as we remember the 1988 decider between Canterbury Bankstown and Balmain. Bye for now.